Hello, Church in Chichester Diocese. Father Steve here with some thoughts on today's Gospel reading for this Saturday in Easter week, which can be found in Mark. We read today that after the events of Jesus' death and resurrection, a chain of events begins that can be linked to the Church today. After his resurrection, Jesus appears to Mary Magdalene. Her response is immediate. She goes and tells the followers of Jesus. Here begins this chain of events. Jesus then appears to two more of the disciples, but in another form, physically, as someone else. They also swiftly go and tell the rest that Jesus was alive. Through these actions, Mary and the disciples become some of the very first links in a chain that connects us with them. All of us who are members of God's Holy Church are a gold link in a very long chain. Each precious link is a story and a witness to Jesus being alive. Jesus has asked us and every generation to tell his story afresh. He says, "Go into all the world and proclaim the good news to the whole of creation." We know it was in complete humility and obedience to his Father that Jesus sacrificed his life. In servitude to Jesus, we must be compelled to share his great and life-giving message so that all can know, love, and follow Jesus. The Great Commission of Jesus, aka the Greatest Commission, is not a new charge, but an ancient one. In spite of this, the context we live in today is neoteric, and the means we have to fulfill Jesus' charge are different. Throughout history, the Church has always embraced the technology of the day to fulfill the Great Commission. In its infancy, the Church's use of roads enabled the message of the Gospel to spread as never before. In the 15th century, the invention of the Gutenberg press allowed the message of the Gospel to be printed in a word, and again this amplified its spreading across the globe. Today, with digital technology at our disposal, we can accelerate the telling of this story as never before. The hope of Jesus' resurrection can now sweep further into places where it has not yet been heard. In 2020, it pleases Jesus to see his church invigorated by the Holy Spirit, doing what he charged us with 2,000 years ago. Whether it be through the colour and beauty of a sacred Eucharist, so faithfully participated in by so many, or the many Alpha courses that take place each year. I am sure we can all speak of the many clubs, house groups and outreach activities that we serve the people of our communities with. Perhaps, or even most importantly, we speak even more of Jesus by the way in which we live our lives on a daily basis, being Christ to all that we encounter. In undertaking all these things, we are fulfilling an ancient charge. And although this charge has not changed, the context we find ourselves in has changed uniquely. Digital landscapes now provide a space that we are increasingly inhabiting. Social media platforms are a new means of communication and provide a new kind of cohesion for our communities. Through the Holy Spirit, God is inspiring his church to inhabit these vast digital continents to speak of the love of Jesus. It has been a joy and inspiration to see green shoots of evangelism springing up everywhere in these landscapes. In many ways, this health crisis is a game changer. The church has had to fully inhabit the virtual, and in some ways it will never be the same. Church communities are now, and like never before, embracing digital tools for conversing God's message of love. This is happening in many creative and pioneering ways. Remember how Jesus appeared to the disciples in a different form? He is still doing this today, and to many. You only have to Google Jesus and over 1.3 billion results appear. In 2020, there are now 3 realms in the church's life: earthly, heavenly, and digital. Jesus' charge is ancient: go into all the world. And as the church now enters these vast digital backdrops, something is happening. The spiritual temperature is rising. Like when the sun shines and the temperature climbs only slightly, things begin to grow. In the same way, the snowballing activity of the church in a virtual space is causing the spiritual temperature to rise, and as a result, things are growing. The church begins to grow. Finally, in all that we do, whether spiritual, physical, or virtual, we must always remember that we do so not simply to be liked, but to be obedient to the ancient charge of Jesus. Thank you.